We, the jury, unanimously find that the defendant, Kouri Richins, is guilty of aggravated murder. We, the jury, unanimously agree that the prosecution has proved the following circumstance or circumstances regarding count 1 beyond a reasonable doubt. The homicide was committed for pecuniary gain, and the homicide was committed by means of the administration of any substance administered in a lethal amount, dosage, or quantity.
She wrote a children's book about grief. She went on morning TV to promote it. She smiled for the cameras, talked about healing, and told the world she was just a mother trying to help her boys cope with losing their father. And the whole time, prosecutors say she already knew exactly how he died because she's the one who killed him. This is a story of Kouri Richins, and it is one of the most calculated cases I have ever covered on this channel. If this is your first time here, subscribe right now, hit the bell icon, and like this video. Crime Files covers the cases the headlines skim over, and this one goes deep. Stay with me. Now let's get into it. Kouri grew up in an unstable home. Her parents divorced after her father fell asleep at the wheel and hit a police officer. Her mother reportedly struggled with a gambling addiction. The family moved constantly. And somewhere in all of that chaos, Kouri learned one very important skill: how to make her life look better than it actually was, how to project success, how to smile through the mess. That skill would follow her all the way into adulthood and eventually into a courtroom. She met Eric Richins when she was young, and from the outside, they looked like a dream. Eric was a hard worker. He co-owned a stone masonry business called C&E Masonry with his partner Kouri Richins, and it was doing well. He was dependable, family-oriented, the kind of man who showed up. He had been married once before. That marriage ended badly. His first wife cheated on him. And so when he found Kouri, he wanted to do things right. His mother actually pushed for a prenuptial agreement before the wedding. And on June 15, 2013, the day they got married in their backyard in Utah, Kouri signed it. That prenup would become one of the most important documents in this entire case. What it said, basically, was that if the marriage fell apart and they divorced, Eric kept his business, his assets, his money. Kouri would walk away with very little. But there was one exception buried in the language. If Eric died while they were still legally married, everything transferred to Kouri. His business interests, his assets, all of it. At the time, it probably seemed like standard legal language, just covering the bases. Nobody gets married thinking about that clause. But for Kouri, years later, that one line would become the difference between walking away broke and walking away a millionaire. They had 3 boys together, and for a while, things seemed fine. Kouri launched her own real estate business in 2019, K. Richins Realty, flipping homes in Utah. Friends describe her as driven, ambitious, someone who always wanted more, and Eric supported her. He believed in her. That trust, it turns out, was something she would use against him, because behind the scenes, the business was bleeding. Kouri was taking on more and more properties, borrowing more and more money, and the finances were spiraling. But here is the part that should make your stomach turn. She was funding all of it with Eric's money. Without his knowledge, she used his power of attorney to secretly take out a $250,000 loan against their family home. She pulled money from his bank accounts. She ran up his credit cards. She took checks from his business and cashed them for herself. By the time Eric found out in 2020, prosecutors say she had stolen or misused nearly $500,000 of his money. Eric was devastated. He consulted a divorce attorney, then an estate planning attorney, and quietly, without telling Kouri, he rewrote everything. He created the Eric Richins Living Trust and placed his entire estate under the control of his sister Katie for the benefit of their 3 children. He changed his life insurance beneficiary away from Kouri. He transferred his business interest into the trust. He was building a financial wall between himself and his wife, brick by brick, and Kouri had no idea. Or at least, that is what he thought. Because at the same time Eric was quietly preparing to protect himself, Kouri was quietly preparing something else entirely. She had started an affair with a man named Robert Josh Grossman, who she had met years earlier in South Carolina when he helped her flip a house. In 2020, he moved to Utah. He He lived in the homes she was renovating while he worked on them, and the two of them fell deep into something serious. They talked about a future together. They talked about getting married. In one text message sent just weeks before Eric died, Kouri wrote to Grossman, "And I need you to really sit with this. If he could just go away and he could just be here, life would be so perfect." She was still married. Her husband was still alive, and she was already imagining a world without him. Now here's where the tension really starts to build. By early 2022, Kouri's financial world was collapsing fast. She was attempting overdraft transactions almost every single day. She owed nearly $2 million to a private lender. She owed close to $200,000 in unpaid taxes. She had signed a contract to purchase a massive unfinished mansion in Midway, Utah, 20,000 square feet, sitting on nearly 9 acres, priced at $2.9 million, and the closing deadline was March 4th, 2022. She needed a massive amount of cash immediately, and she had nowhere to get it, except, she believed, from Eric's estate. What she did not know was that Eric had already cut her out. She still believed that if he died, she would inherit everything. She believed the prenup protected her. She believed she was still the beneficiary on his life insurance policies. She was wrong on almost every count, but she did not know that yet. So in the weeks leading up to his death, Kouri began making moves. She contacted her housekeeper, Carmen Lauber, and asked her to get hold of some pain medication for an investor, she claimed, who had a back injury. Lauber connected with a dealer named Robert Crozier, and pills changed hands at a gas station in Draper, Utah. Then Kouri came back and asked for something stronger, something more lethal. She asked specifically for what she called the Michael Jackson stuff, fentanyl, the same drug that killed the pop star. And Lauber delivered. On Valentine's Day 2022, Eric got violently sick after eating a sandwich Kouri had made for him, complete with a love note on the side. He broke out in hives. He struggled to breathe. He had to use his son's EpiPen just to get through the night. Later, he told his friend and business partner Cody Wright what happened. According to Wright, Eric had fear in his voice. He told Wright he thought Kouri had tried to poison him, but he survived. And somehow, life continued. 2 weeks later, Kouri picked up more fentanyl from the same source. And 6 days after that, on the night of March 3rd, 2022, Kouri made her husband a Moscow Mule cocktail to celebrate what she told him was a big win for her real estate business. Eric drank it. He went to bed. Kouri told investigators she went to sleep with one of their sons who was having nightmares. She said she came back to the bedroom around 3 a.m. and found Eric cold and unresponsive. She called 911 at 3:21 a.m., but phone records showed her phone was active and messages were being sent and deleted between 3:06 and 3:21. 15 minutes she has never fully explained. Paramedics arrived and found Eric on the floor at the foot of his bed. First responders noted he appeared to have been dead for a while. The medical examiner later confirmed what killed him: fentanyl, not medical grade, illicit, street-level fentanyl, 5 times the lethal dose, ingested orally. The very next morning, Kouri closed on the Midway mansion. The day after her husband died, she signed the paperwork on a $2.9 million property. 2 weeks later, she listed it for $4.8 million. And then about a year later, she published a children's book. Now here's the twist that makes this case unlike almost any other. When investigators looked deeper, they found something that revealed just how little Kouri actually understood about what Eric had been doing behind the scenes. On March 6, 2022, 2 days after his death, she hired a locksmith to drill open Eric's personal safe. Inside, reportedly, was over $100,000 in cash. But it was at that exact moment that Eric's sister Katie showed up and told Kouri the truth. She was not the trustee. Eric had changed everything. He had cut her out completely. By all accounts, Kouri was furious. So furious that she punched her sister-in-law in the face. She had killed her husband for inheritance she was never going to receive. Let that land for a second. Everything she planned, the fentanyl, the insurance policies, the timing around the mansion closing, it was all built on the assumption that Eric's money was still hers to take. But Eric had spent 2 years quietly making sure it wasn't. He saw what she was doing. He protected his children. And he still ended up dead, poisoned in his own bed, by the woman who stood next to him at the altar. Kouri was arrested in May 2023, just weeks after she went on morning television to promote her grief book. She has been in jail ever since. On March 16th, 2026, after 3 weeks of trial and just under 3 hours of jury deliberation, she was convicted of aggravated murder, attempted murder, insurance fraud, and forgery. She faces 25 years to life in prison. Sentencing is scheduled for May 13th, 2026, what would have been Eric's 44th birthday. And she still faces 26 additional felony charges in a separate financial crimes case. So I want to leave you with this, because I think it is the most haunting part of this whole story. Kouri sat in morning TV interviews, holding that children's book, talking about loss and healing, and how she wrote it with her boys to help them grieve their father. And the question that I keep coming back to is, what do you do with that? What does it take to do that? To poison someone, watch them die, close on a property the next morning, and then spend a year crafting a public image as the grieving widow? What is going on inside a person who can do all of that and still look a camera in the eye and talk about love? Was she ever actually remorseful? Or was the book just the final layer of the performance? Did she believe she would never get caught? And what are her 3 boys, who are real, who lost their father, who were used as props in that cover story? What do they do with all of this when they grow up? I did not have clean answers to those questions, but I think they are worth sitting with. If this case hit you the way it hit me, please like this video, subscribe to Crime Files, and click the bell icon so you never miss when we drop a new case. We go deep on every single one. I will see you in the next video.